And similarly, this board b'makom is explained in another place, binyan das Ada, with the concept of das and Ada, that the word das, if you change the letters, it becomes Ada, from knowledge to congregation or testimony. Shebechinas das, shukalul b'chesed v'gvura, that das is composed of both kindness and strictness, kashanim shachlamata b'biyah, that is as it is in the world of Atzilus. But as it comes down into the lower worlds of Yitzirasya, mischalik lechalakim, it's divided into portions, v'nasa b'chinas Eda, and becomes a congregation. Not just two that are united, the concept of das, but a whole congregation of division. Because as it comes down, it divides further. Like we said, with the concept of 5 gvuros, and as it comes into the 12, so to speak, cattle, it multiplies to 60. The 60 strong men that surround the bed. And look what it says in the Maamer. Like an eagle that awakens its nest, Shabbatzilus hakol kalul yochad. That in Atzilus, it's all united as one. Mash'enkin bibiyah, which is not the case in the lower worlds of B'riyat Yirasiyah. Kumushim melamdin Latino pirki, and like you teach a child one parak after another. When you divide one idea into parts. And Shom, look over there in the Maamer Knesher Yarkino. So too, the 5 strictnesses of Atzilus become in the world's B'riyat Yirasiyah 60 strong men. Look what it says in Zohar and Vayaschanan about the 60 strong men. And like the words of the Zohar is also stated clearly in Medrash Rabbah Parshas Naso, Parsha Yud Daled, Daf Reish Samach Beis Gimel Gabe Elim Shishim, that he mentioned before, that in Parshas Naso you have the Nesim, when it calculates the full number of everything that was given, it's 60 rams and so forth. Gabe Elim Shishim Chulov, Yitzchak ben Shishim Shana, and Yitzchak was 60 years old. When he had Rivka and so forth. Shinamar Shishim Giborim Saviv, like it says, and it brings in Zohar there this pasuk of 60 strong men surrounded her. Hare Elim Shishim, so then the 60 rams of sacrifice to the Mishkan, of dedicating the Mishkan, Zobechinas Shishim Giburim, that's the concept of the 60 strong men who canal, and this is like was explained before. El Shemosif Od, but it adds there further, Shazo in Yitzchak ben Shishim Shana, this extra point that this also corresponds with Yitzchak being 60 years old. Why? Because Yitzchak is the concept of strictnesses. Like we said, that it's the 5 strictnesses that becomes the 60. So Yitzchak corresponding with the 60 also. Maybe the Ayel could also correspond maybe with Akedas Yitzchak, I'm not sure. The Elim. V'yosu ben Shishim Shana, and him being 60 years old, that's like the concept of the 60 strongmen. And there it also has another point that this corresponds with the 60 queens. Right? In Shira Shirim, Shishim Hema Malachos Ushmonim Pelagshim Valamos and Mispar, you have 60 queens and 80 concubines and numerous young maidens without number. So there's 60 queens specifically. Shishim Giborim Chulu, and corresponding with the 60 strong men. That is because the oral Torah, whom bechinas hegvuros, comes from this 5 strictnesses, kanod as is known, midrush bina yisera nitna be'isha, from the explanation, the drush on how the extra bina, extra understanding was given to the woman. So that comes from the gvuros, specifically that strength of understanding the bina, and that's the concept of the queens. Torah Shabal Peh, Torah Shebechsav Shosh Mizah, because the written Torah is rooted in Zeranpin Shirubu Chasadim, that's mostly kindnesses. Hey Chasadim, 5 kindnesses. The Torah Shabal Peh Shosh Manukva, and the oral Torah is rooted in the feminine concept, Ubinyan Hamalchus Mehagvuros, and the building of Malchus, of kingship, of the feminine aspect, comes from the strictnesses. Look what it says in the Maamar, do not read it your sons, rather your builders. Because they're the ones who build the Torah Shabal Peh, the Chachamim of Torah Shabal Peh. So I guess that's, again, corresponds with the Malachos, the queens. And that it corresponds with the strong men being Gvuros. That is because Malchus, since Malchus spreads out into the lower worlds of Bria Tzirasiyah, and there you have a nurturance of the other side. That's why it has to be built. It has to have these 5 strictnesses. To prevent the light from flowing into a place that's improper. To come down only into the place where there's nullification. And this is the concept of the stringencies and the boundaries, the extra boundaries that are given in the oral Torah, more than in the written Torah. And this is the concept of, here's the bed of Shlomo, since the legs come down from the bed towards death, so to speak. Because Malchus goes down into the Olamos where there could be Yanika. That's why you have to have this guarding, and that's through the 60 tractates of Gemara that come from the 5 strictnesses, the 5 strengths, and they're called the 60 strong men, as they're included within the 6 orders of the Mishnah, al derech, like was explained when calculating the 60. And that's why it says from the strong men of Israel, because the root of these strengths come from the world of the masculine, which is the concept of Yisrael. That's in general corresponds with Zah. And comes from this 5 strictnesses of Atik. That's where its original root is, above. And look what it says in the Maamar, that I'm black and beautiful, futsos of taltalim shchoros georev, about the 2 different kinds of hair. You have a hair that's white, and then you have hair that's dark, like a raven. Specifically, then there's the beauty, shchora v'nava. Meaning to say, specifically through the gvuros, the darkness, that's where you have the beauty show. In the Torah Shabal Peh, So do we find that the toil in Torah is called strength. Ka'omram al pasuk bigvura. Like our sages said about strength. V'lo migvura shel Torah chulon. I was not embarrassed in the strength of Torah. I'm not sure what that's referring to specifically. Gam Amru Razal, and our sages said also, Anochi v'lo yelecha mipir hagvura shamaynu, that in the two first commandments of I am Hashem and you should not have any other, that we heard them from the mouth of strength. So we see another proof that Torah is compared to Gvura. Specifically, we're referring to the Torah Shebal Peh. Kulam achuzei cherev. All of them are holding a sword. What's this sword? Hu eisek hatfila. That's the toiling in prayer. Like the pasuk says, that they have praises of Hashem in their mouth, in their throats, and and the double-edged sword in their hands. So it equates the double-edged sword to the voice of prayer and praise. That is also to, if you want to bring down through Torah, you also have to have the sword. It's not just enough Torah, but also prayer. You have to place your heart towards Him in prayer, Elav Yasov, and it'll be gathered unto you. The Kamosh goes, but I was right. Yasim Elav Libo Ruchav Nishmasu Elav Yasov is the pasuk. The Kamosh goes, but Abos Nasor Reish Mem Dalar Aleph, like it says in Medrash Rabbi Nasor. So again, we come back full circle to the concept of coming out of Mitzrayim armed with weapons. That Bnei Israel came out of Mitzrayim armed. Which, like we said earlier, is the 50 gates of Bina, which is the contemplation and the greatness of Hashem. That's the Bina. So the prayer is contemplation on the greatness of Hashem, the Roma Muskel, the greatness of Hashem. When you like we said, that's Bina. That Yitzias Mitzrayim is Bina. Milum de Milchama, they're learned in battle. The pasuk continues, Perish Barabo. So it says in Medrash Rabbah Sham. It says in Medrash Rabbah there, who did they learn from? Min HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Where did they learn battle from? They learned it from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Like it says, Hashem is a man of battle. So we're not learning regular battle here. We're learning battle from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So what's this talking about? You can understand this with what's explained in the Maamar. All your sons are learners of Hashem. And every person there's the name Havaya. Yud-Kei Ratzov V'Shov. That the Yud-Kei of Shem Havaya in our souls are the concept of us going up and back down, B'Eisek Tefillah, which is the concept of prayer. Within prayer, we go upwards and come back. Vav Ke B'Eisek HaTorah Chulu, and the Vav Ke within our soul is in our toiling of Torah. The Inyan Havaya Ish Milchama, and the concept of Hashem being a man of battle, that it says, if you lift yourself up like an eagle, that if you lift yourself up like an eagle, I will bring you down from there. Hashem says, It says in the Maamar Torah or about that a man battled with Yaakov. So it's a concept. It's a concept of the Yetzer Hara, concept of fighting the Esav within us. The haughtiness, to bring it down, that's the battle. And how do you do that? That's through being knowledgeable in Havaya, knowledgeable in Torah, knowledgeable in Hashem, in the name Yud Kei Vav Kei, which we said was Tefillah and Torah. And in Medrash Rabbeinu there it says that the Torah is called the book of the battles of Hashem. Why? Because through the Torah you separate the nurturance of the external by dividing and say that this is no good and this is good, and clarifying what's right and what's wrong. That fights and gets rid of the bad. When you say something's puzzle, she's a puzzle, and so forth. That's like a battle against it. And that's like the end of the pasuk about the 60 strong men, where it says each man has his sword upon his thigh. And Medrash Rabbah there it says that refers to another concept. That is the concept of the mitzvah of bris milah. The sword upon one's thigh is the cutting of the milah. Look what it says in the Maamar. How beautiful are your footsteps, with the concept of the in the pasuk in Shir Shirim about your thighs. The Gamkin al HaTorah, that also refers to Torah. Like I said, that just like the thighs are in a hidden place, so too words of Torah are in a hidden place. Gam yesh lomar, we can further say yarchin him braisos, that the thighs are the braisos, which are outside the body, because the body itself would be the Mishnah, and the braisa is a bar, is from the language bar, from outside, meaning to say not the body of the Mishnah, and so that corresponds with the thighs. Then we call them ipachad belelus, and all of this pasuk, the Torah, the Tefillah, the Milah, all of this is from the fear of the night times. Like the concept of, you'll also guard my courtyard. We can further say, learn it in battle, like the pasuk, when you go out to battle, you'll be upon your enemy, above your enemy. From all of this we can understand the concept of that Elohim turned them around. What our sages said from here, that even a pauper in Israel should not eat until they lay down, because Vayesev also means to rest and lay down. Upirish Rashi Reish Arvei Psachim. So Rashi explains, what does this mean? Sheyesev b'mita, like we do on Pesach when we lean to drink the wine. So it says it's to sit on a bed. That's what Rashi says. Hainu b'chinas mitoso shli Shlomo. That's the concept of the bed of Shlomo. So that's Vayesev Elokim. Hayisov Elokim. Sheyamshich al bechina nagiloi bechina shalom, that to bring upon the bed the concept of peace, the bed of Shlomo, kinyan v'yasim l'cha shalom, like the concept of he will give you peace. V'zeu inyan ad shah melech b'mesibo, and that's also the meaning of the verse in Shir HaShirim, until the king in his prostration, in his repose and so forth. Hints to this eating or lying on a bed. And this is like it's said that through the evening prayer, it fixes the concept of the bed of Shlomo. It's only that on the, so you have this every night. It's only that on the night of Pesach, we fix this concept with a greater strength. Also, Vayisov is to surround, to turn, implies bringing down, encompassing lights. And then it says, we didn't go the way of Plishtim because it was close. Rather, we went through, Hashem turned us towards the path of the desert. So what's this path of the desert? Kimitazu ragle hayordos, because we already established the concept of the bed is the legs that go down towards death, to the almost bia, and where there could be nikasachitzonim lechin tzarich lachnia midbar zeh. That's why you have to, that corresponds with the desert, a desolate place. And you have to subjugate the desert with the nachash saraf and akrav there. Right now, Inyan Hegvuros, the Sachrin law, and that's the 5 strictnesses that surround her, that surround the rose, or like we said, the 60 strong men. And from them is the root of the korban omer of barley, which is shiur hay, the concept of the measure of the hay. So from the bed, the lying down of the korban of the Pesach Seder, you come to the next night to the korban haomer, which is the strictnesses, the shiur hay, which is protection from Yanika, from this Giloy. V'achar yam suf, and then you get to the Sea of Reeds, Shvi Shel Pesach. At the end of Pesach, you get to the 7th of Pesach, the splitting of the sea, where it says וחמושים oluchu, that we came up armed. It calls it Achshav B'Yetzias Mitzrayim, and all of this is now with the going out of Mitzrayim. But in the time to come, our sages said, we will not need armaments or weapons. Like it says in the Gemara in Shabbos, with what can a woman go out on Shabbos with? The Chachamim Amru Einan Ela Ganai. Our sages said, well, you can go. The first opinion is you can go out with weapons on Shabbos because they can be a decoration. And our sages said, no, a weapon is a ganai. It's a blemish. It's not a nice thing. Shinamar, like it says, v'katosu charbosam le'itim, because in the time to come, it says that we're going to cut our swords into plowshares. Because it's in the time to come, it says that I will wipe away the spirit of impurity So all of this, we said that to go out of Mitzrayim, you need chamushim, you need these armaments, you need concept of battle, Hashem ish milchama, which is this battle with the Yetzer Hara, with Esav, which we said it comes through his bonus and so forth. The praises of Hashem in prayer. But in the time to come, it says, you will not go out with speedily running away like we did by Mitzrayim. The time to come is going to be different. If so, there's not going to be this battle, this fighting like we did by Mitzrayim. And you should know that even now there's a difference already between the prayer of the weekday and the prayer of Shabbos. So like on the verse, it explains that he did not see sin in Yaakov or toil in Israel. That Yaakov is called my servant. So Yaakov corresponds with the service of the weekday. And you can have a concept of toil. And that's the concept of battle. But Shabbos is not Yaakov, the concept of a servant, but rather Yisrael, which is a minister, a ruler. Why? Because why is he called a ruler? Because he already conquered and is ruling over the bad. He's not working on it anymore. You do not need the battle any longer, and that's even just now in Shabbos. That's why he did not see this toil. And that's why our sages said about this: that a man should not go out on Shabbos, not with a sword, not with a bow. Because also spiritually you do not have this concept on Shabbos of the battle, of the fighting, even in prayer and so forth. That's why on Shabbos we do not say the 12 middle blessings of Shemona Esrei, which are requests, because the first 3 brachos are praises and openings to the Shemona Esrei, and then the middle brachos are requests, and the last 3 brachos are modim and thanks and so forth. But on Shabbos you do not have requests. It's just Mekadesh HaShabbos, 1 bracha in the middle. Because that's the concept of Bakashos, is the concept of Bekashti, of my bow, my bow and arrow. And how much more so in the time to come. And that's why the pasuk says in Navi that we will no longer learn battle. Also because they're going out of Mitzrayim comes from the side of Yovel, of Bina. Like we said, that's the concept of Chamushim, of Bina, of Allah Silavu Gilo, the Nun Shari Bina. Allah Silavu Gilo Atzmius Yovel, or Yuval. But in the time to come, it'll be the revelation of the essence of Yuval, like Al Yuval Yushalach Shoroshav. It's the difference between Yovel and Yuval with Bain Mashikasav Binyan Yuval b'Malupam. Look what it says about this concept of the Yuval with the Malupam, the dot in the middle instead of on top. The Yovel b'Cholem, and Yovel with a Cholem with the dot on top. Gam Kamu Milas, or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe it's Yuvala and Yovel. At any rate, whichever is higher. Also, this is like the concept of the great shofar in the time to come. Yovel ha'elyon, the concept of the supernal Yovel. Mamash truly cherus vidror, true freedom and release. Al shofar stam, greater than the regular shofar, shu ha'ar mebechinis yovel l'chol, which is only a glimmer from this freedom. Like the 50th year when slaves go out. And then the final freedom of the great shofar of the time to come. That's why it says in the time to come that the wolf will lie with the lamb, meaning to say you won't have the battle, you won't have the fighting. And this is just like on the Ark of Noach, and the way the animals did not fight each other. Because the inner concept of bina, not just the regular bina, but the inner concept of it that will be revealed in the time to come, is the inner concept of atik yom and chulu. Amen.